Hey guys, oh I need to stop, always do that thing with my hands. Okay. Hey guys, it's Morgan and welcome back to my channel. So today we're having a nighttime discussion, as you could see from outside, but really the only thing that makes this different from the daytime discussions is like the time of day. We're still talking about different conspiracy theories. So today's theory is the Mandela effect. I thought that this was called the Mandela effect for some reason. I don't know why, but in my mind I had like the mandala drawing. So, learned something. Well, I learned a lot of new things today. So, let's get into it. The Mandela effect is I guess like false memory phenomenon effect, which happens when a group of people remember an event that didn't actually happen. This term was coined by Fiona Broom. She was at a conference and she was talking to a bunch of people, and she started talking about Nelson Mandela, who was a former South African president, and she was talking about how sad it was that he died in the 1980s while he was in prison. Fact of the matter is, Nelson Mandela didn't die till 2013. However, there was a large group of people that were present at the conference that seemed to remember what she was talking about. Like, they remembered speeches that were apparently given by his widow, and they remembered different things related to that event that in actuality clearly didn't happen. And as Fiona Broom kind of looked into it, she realized that this phenomenon was more common than it seemed. She actually posted a whole website about it, but I found all this stuff on a different website, which I will link below. There are 4 different explanations that I can come up with when it comes to why the Mandela effect exists. So the first explanation is obviously my favorite, and it is the theory of alternate realities. So in this theory, as we go through all of the different realities, like we're all like meshing together, and as we mesh together, the time zones and like the timing of different events mesh together as well. So you'll end up having groups of people that remember things that happened, I guess, in a different timeline, but didn't happen in the one that they're now living in. That one seems kind of complicated because it involves a lot of like realities clashing and like time warping and all sorts of stuff. So that one seems to be the least likely. The most likely thing is that there are false memories at play. One possible reason for this is that our memories are built, and like when we learn things, we build them into these building blocks called schemas. So the schemas are basically the building blocks upon which we base our world around. So sometimes information gets coded into one schema, and it causes us to associate things related to that schema with the fact that we've learned. For example, when you learn about Alexander Hamilton, you learn about him when you learn about the presidents and the founding fathers. Alexander Hamilton was not a president, but when you ask people, a lot of people do think that he used to be a president of the United States because he's tied into the schema which relates to the president. So there are a few more possibilities that relate to these false memories. One of these theories is the past event information. What happens is that information that you learn after an event happens changes the way that you perceive an event. So this is really common sometimes with eyewitness testimonies, where the more you think about something and when you hear other people talk about it, it changes your perception of what could happen in that event. So one example that I can think of with this is I remember watching a while ago an episode of Brain Games, and they had a crime staged, and then they called different eyewitnesses in, and there were 2 people in the testimony room with like everyone else that was there that were meant to place false facts. So you'd have people trying to remember what happened, and as people talked and shared their story and the other people listened, it then affected what other people remembered. So if somebody said like they had a white coat, then other people would, like, the more they thought about it, would kind of like shift their memory to take in what the other person was saying. So that's another reason how some of these memories might have been twisted. Another example is priming. Priming is when if somebody suggests something, you're more likely to think that it actually happened. I think that this relates to the previous one I just talked about, but basically priming is like if someone said, "Did you see the dog?" versus "Did you see a dog?" If they said, "Did you see the dog?" you obviously assume that there was actually a dog there, and you missed it. But if they said, "Did you see a dog?" you're like, "I don't know, I didn't see one." So I think that the wording, like, that does make sense. One that I added in, because I got 3 of these, like, from the website that I was using for my information, One that I thought of was the availability heuristic. So basically the availability heuristic is like a mental shortcut that your brain takes when you think of a certain concept. You automatically have a first instinct for things that you think about, and it affects how you perceive things. So like if you think of dogs, what's the first breed you think of? For me, it's usually like a golden retriever or a German shepherd. So that's my availability heuristic for dogs. And the more I think about it, the more I think of, but those are the first dogs that spring to mind when I think of dogs. So I feel like the availability heuristic could have potentially played a part into this phenomenon. The last possible, I guess, explanation for the Mandela effect is called confabulation, which might be my new favorite word because it sounds fabulous. Okay. I crack myself up sometimes. Okay, so confabulation is when there are gaps in your memory and your brain naturally fills in this information to try and make sense of it. It's not that your brain is lying to yourself per se, it's just that it's trying to process the information, and it thinks that by putting in certain information to fill in the gaps, it'll make it easier. So those are the, I guess, 4 or 5, I lost track. Those are the 4, but I guess 5 you think about. Well, technically 4, because there's 3 under the category. Wait. Yeah, there's 3 under the category of false memories, plus the alternate reality. So that makes 4. One of those, the availability heuristic, I came up with myself, but the other ones I did get from my source, which will be posted in the description below if you want to check that out. So here are some examples of the Mandela effect at work. And I'm sure if you actually think about these, like, they're kind of cool. So one is that some people remember Curious George, like that monkey cartoon, having a tail in the illustrations. I don't remember him having a tail, and he actually did never have a tail. I'm pretty proud of myself for knowing this. I was a very avid Curious George watcher as a child. Another one is the Berenstain Bears versus the Berenstain Bears. When I grew up, I always thought it was the Berenstain Bears, especially because like I read the books and I watched the show, and it was like the Berenstain Bears. But in actuality, their name is the Berenstain Bears, which doesn't flow off the tongue as well, but like Mandela effect at work maybe. Another example is that Looney Tunes was originally spelled, well, Tunes was originally spelled Tunes, not Toons, as most people believe it to be now, and how it is now. Another example is Chick-fil-A spelled with hyphens or no hyphens. I actually don't remember, which is kind of bad. But my brain wants to say that both happened. Another one, and like I have never been a very avid Star Wars fan, I think that it's interesting, but I never really got into the movies, is that apparently the famous line, Luke, I am your father, was actually no, I am your father. So and another iconic movie line that might have been mixed up with the Mandela effect is that in Snow White, the evil queen says magic mirror on the wall, not mirror, mirror on the wall. So those are just a few examples of the Mandela effect at work. Woo! I first heard of this theory when I was in 7th grade, and I think that it's really interesting how we remember different examples of the same thing, I guess. Like, we remember different spellings, or we remember different... I think it's interesting how we remember, like, different things about certain events. It's kind of cool, especially because, like, it makes you wonder like what actually happened, like how much of it is like society at play and all this other stuff. So I thought that this was a really cool thing to look into. I would love to hear what your experience with the Mandela effect has been. So if you have any more examples of the Mandela effect at work and people remembering things one way but then they were really another way, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I'm here every Tuesday, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!